It's Tuesday, February 8th. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. Consumers will have to pay more for chicken from Caribbean Broilers. The company has announced that its chicken prices have been increased by 6 to 8%. Last week, its main competitor, Jamaica Broilers, increased chicken prices by 10%. CB says the rippling effects of the continued global supply chain disruptions and the further depreciation of the Jamaican dollar are causing the cost of production to increase. The Jamaica Teachers Association, JTA, has accepted the government's 4% increased wage offer. The JTA has also given the Finance Ministry until the end of March to pay increased salaries and benefits to its members. The teachers will also get a book and software allowance of $40,000 per year. The JTA president, Winston Smith, says while the teachers were not satisfied with the offer, they felt it was the best the government could do at this time. The reconstruction of a section of Jamaica aluminum company JAMALCO, which was damaged by fire, will be completed in 2024. That assurance came from Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark. He gave an update in Parliament recently. The Clarendon-based company was damaged by fire in August 2021.
The Finance Minister says reconstruction is on track and it's being done in 3 phases. He says phase 1 should be completed in June.
JAMALCO expects the recommencement of operations at up to 50% of capacity, using steam from a set of boilers now being installed.
Dr. Clark says it's expected that mining operations and certain jobs should come online weeks prior to the resumption of production.
It is expected that mining operations and associated jobs will begin to be restored in the weeks prior to the resumption of production. By the end of September 2022, JAMALCO expects to be back at 100% production, which will mark phase 2. Production costs should then be lower than in phase 1, but still not at the most efficient level possible, because in phase 2, JAMALCO will still be relying on the temporary steam solution.
He says phase 3 involves the building of the powerhouse.
JAMALCO is considering a number of strategic options for achieving this. It is anticipated that completion of this reconstruction will be achieved by 2024.
The Finance Minister notes that a claim has been made of the company's insurance to the tune of $250 million. Of that amount, $68 million has been disbursed so far.
649,000 doses of the Pfizer vaccine have been donated to Jamaica from France. The Ministry of Health has received the donation through the Pan American Health Organization's COVAX facility. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says the government is grateful for the donation as it continues to combat COVID-19. Up to Sunday, February 6th, the island had 3,892 active cases of the virus, as well as 2,698 recorded deaths. Last Friday, February 4, was recognized globally as World Cancer Day. The Jamaica Cancer Registry at the University of the West Indies reported that a total of 7,348 cancers were recorded in Jamaica as of 2018, 3,495 males and 3,853 females. Cancer of the prostate, breast, colon, lung, and cervix uteri remain the 5 most prevalent cancers in Jamaica. Jamaica's fight against this prevalent disease has been bolstered with the recent opening of the International Cancer and Chronic Pain Institute in Kingston. Marlon Samuels tells us more.
Apollon Formularis is the company behind the institute. The new facility will offer complementary and alternative treatments for cancer patients, including the company's own medical cannabis products. President Stephen Barnhill cited recent breakthrough test cancer treatments using 3D cell culture testing,
which is a brand new technology where you actually have a cancer growing in 3 dimensions. And so not killing it on top, but you have to actually get through those cancer cells and into the normal environment that the cancer cell grows in to kill it. We spent an awful lot of money, about $250,000 US, to see if it worked. And it could have come back and said, sorry, this didn't work on, whatever this formulation was, didn't work in these cancer cells. Now, we tested it against 10 different cancer cell lines, and we tested 9 of our formulations. And I'm happy to report that our formulations, as we have already announced publicly, for breast cancer and prostate cancer, killed nearly 100% of the cancer cells in those cultures.
Industry, Investment and Commerce State Minister Dr. Norman Dunn underscored the critical role of cannabis in medical technology.
Here we are showing in this research that maybe surgery is not necessarily the option or the only option. I mean, apart from the pharmaceutical treatment that we all know of, here is a new area that will lead to some and shed some light that persons do not have to do a prostatectomy or a mastectomy. There are other options that are allowed for the quality of life, because that's what we all seek as medical practitioners and persons in this sphere, is the quality of life that we can give to our patient.
In addition to providing help and relief for cancer sufferers, doctors and researchers will garner invaluable patient data on Apollo's cannabis formulations. The recent opening brought together players from both sides of the political divide, who have been instrumental in making the Institute a reality. For the news on PBCJ, I am Marlon Samuels.
Members of the Senate on Friday agreed to cancel a debate on the report from a triennial review of the Zones of Special Operations, ZOSOs. The report was tabled in the House of Representatives previously and passed on January 25. The suggestion to skip the debate came from opposition Senator Lambert Brown.
At least 5 members of the Senate who sat on the Joint Select Committee who have all signed off on this. And it's my understanding on this side that we do not intend to speak on it unless the other side wishes to engage in a debate, because the bill has to come arising from the acceptance of this report. And I would urge that we just proceed to the next item and adjourn thereafter.
Under the law reform Zones of Special Operations, Special Security and Community Development Measures Act, an area can be declared a ZOSO once there is rampant criminality, gangfare, escalated violence and murder, and a threat to the rule of law. ZOSO is established specially using the clear, hold, and build strategy.
Since the passage of the Act, the Prime Minister has declared 7 geographical areas ZOSOs, as per Section 4 of said Act. These areas include Mount Salem on September 17, 2017, Denham Town, October 17, 2017, Greenwich Town, July 1, 2020, August Town, July 8, 2020, Norwood, June 20, 2021, Parade Gardens, January 9, 2022, and Savannah Lamar, January 16, 2022.
Factory owners and operators are being encouraged to pay their factory registration or re-registration fees through the online payment option, now available at the Tax Administration of Jamaica's website, www.jamaicatax.gov.jm. The Factories Act requires that every factory must be registered and maintain a valid certificate of registration. You're required to email a copy of the payment receipt along with the completed factory registration application form to osh@mlss.gov.jm after payment. The market never sleeps. So we now join Gabriel Thompson for a quick business report and the latest movements and shifts in the financial and commodities world.
In foreign exchange trading for Monday, February 7, the US dollar sold for an average $157.48. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $123.46. The pound sterling traded for $210.79, and the euro sold for an average $182.23. In Monday's trading session, the following reflect the movement of the JSE indices. The JSE index advanced by 1,343 points to close at just under 400,000 units. The junior market index declined by 28 points to close at over 3,000 units. The combined market index advanced by 1,008 points to close at over 400,000 units, and the all-Jamaican composite index advanced by 1,714 points to close at over 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 108 stocks, of which 52 advanced, 39 declined, and 18 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, 138 Student Living Variable Preference, and 1834 Investments Limited. Stocks declined for Access Financial Services Limited, AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, and Barita Investments Limited. Trading firm were Berger Paints Jamaica Limited, Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances Limited, and Epley Caribbean Property Fund Limited, SCC. QWI Investments Limited was the volume leader with over 4.9 million units, followed by Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares with over 2.2 million units, and Future Energy Source Company Limited ordinary shares with over 2.1 million units. In market data for oil, prices slipped towards $90 a barrel on Tuesday ahead of the resumption of indirect talks between the United States and Iran, which could revive an international nuclear agreement and allow more oil exports from the OPEC producer. A deal could return more than 1 million barrels per day BPD of Iranian oil, equating to more than 1% of global supply to the market. The nuclear talks are due to resume in Vienna on Tuesday. 8 rounds of indirect talks between Tehran and Washington since April have yet to result in an agreement on a resumption of the 2015 nuclear pact, with differences remaining over the speed and scope of lifting the sanctions. Brent crude futures were down $2.02 or 2.2% at $90.67 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude futures fell $1.60 or 1.8% to $89.72 a barrel. And with that, we close this Tuesday edition of the Business Report Inside the News on PBCJ. I'm Gabrielle Thompson. Pleasant viewing.
In regional news, a U.S. Congresswoman has passed a bill in the House of Representatives to support debt relief for Caribbean and other developing countries. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez told the Caribbean Media Corporation the measure was passed in the House on Friday as part of the America Competes Act. The legislation, among other things, places a moratorium on debt payments. The World Bank has warned of a 12% increase in the debt burden of developing countries to a record $860 billion in light of the pandemic. The World Bank says since its debt service suspension initiative took effect on May 1, 2020, it has delivered $10.3 billion in relief to more than 40 countries. Argentina's President Alberto Fernandez is in Barbados for discussions with Prime Minister Mia Mottley on deepening bilateral relations, as well as matters of mutual interest, including climate change, gender equality, and regional cooperation. More from Barbados today.
The two leaders are expected to discuss matters of mutual interest across the Caribbean and Central and South America. Fernandez, the chairman of the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, CELAC, is expected to see firsthand some of the measures Barbados has in place to address issues related to climate change. Director of Caribbean Affairs with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Argentina, Gustavo Pandiani, stressed closer cooperation between CELAC partners is important.
Latin America and the Caribbean, we are not the most powerful area of the world. We need to deal with Europe, we need to deal with North America, we need to deal with China. So why are not working together. It doesn't make sense to me not to do it. So, to answer your question, why we do it? Because we need to be together to be stronger. So when we have to deal, let's say we have to negotiate a trade agreement with China, or a trade agreement with the US, or a trade agreement with the Europeans, if we do it together as a whole organization with more market, with more consumers, with more production, with more territories, with more everything, we are going to be in a better situation to negotiate. So we need to keep as together as possible in order then to be stronger when we talk outside of our own region.
In the Bahamas, organizers of a Valentine's Day reggae concert say the event is going ahead despite not having approval from the Health and Wellness Ministry. Jared Higgs reports.
We up all night speaking on the phone boat, Bahamas, Nassau, February 11th.
The fate of a popular concert up in the air, as its promoters say it's still on, but health officials say they haven't approved the event.
It's no regular. Dexta Daps live in Bahamas. You know what it is. Shellings.
Fluid Factory is hosting the Dexta Daps shows on Friday, February 11th at the QE Sports Center in Nassau and on the 12th at Gumbe Park in the International Bazaar in Freeport, Grand Bahama.
Please, people, continue to buy your tickets. Don't be afraid. Fluid Factory is here. If you don't know now, you know. Dexta Daps concert this weekend.
But the show's existence was thrown into limbo over the weekend after OPM Director of Communications, Latre Raming, tweeted that the event's organizers hadn't been given approval for a Dexta Daps concert to be held, nor had the Ministry of Health and Wellness received a request for approval. A statement today from Minister of Health and Wellness Dr. Michael Darville explained that a communication was sent on January 17, 2022 in response to a request for approval for a Reggae Valentine event seeking to host 2,000 persons on February 11, 2022. The email advising the organizers that the event could only occur if it adhered to the existing parameters in the health services rules, 30 maximum outdoors and 20 maximum indoors. The denial was partly due to the state of the pandemic at the time, Darville said, and the organizers were invited to resubmit a request for approval for reconsideration 2 weeks prior to the event. As of 10 a.m. this morning, February 7, 2022, the Advisory Committee of the Ministry of Health and Wellness was not in receipt of a resubmission of a request from the organizers for this event. Meanwhile, the event's promoter, Clavon Duncombe, appeared in a radio show telling listeners that the concert is still on.
Everyone, I want to show you that the event will happen. Just be patient with us, believe in us, and I'm here feeling kind of good.
Our News attempted to contact the event's organizer several times by phone and WhatsApp to no avail. In their radio appearance, they suggested approval for the concert will be granted.
It's looking good, and this is why we know we would get the approval. Right. And the process, like I said, you get your approval the week of your event. So for someone to say on a Saturday, oh, we didn't get approved, they didn't say we got denied.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
And in St. Lucia, the government has unveiled the logo and calendar of events for the island's 43rd Independence Anniversary celebrations, which will be observed on Tuesday, February 22. More details in this HDS News Force report.
Hand in hand, let's celebrate our country, the best we have to give.
The 43rd Independence Anniversary celebrations will highlight the island's culture through creative expressions. Tuesday, February 22nd, 2022 will mark 43 years since St. Lucia gained complete independence from Britain. The government on Monday launched the calendar of events and the Independence 43 logo virtually. Co-chair of the Independence Committee, Daryl Montrop, says St. Lucia is ripe with talent waiting to be discovered.
Our own Nobel laureate, at least First Lewis, pointed to the fact that a society without the creative sector is a cultural desert. So our calendar of activities celebrates a lot of that creative sector in its many forms. So when we're going to think of live art, live art, I mean, this is an exciting phenomenon where all the creative sector, and we have to perhaps get more understanding of what that creative sector is. So whether visual artists, whether digital photographers, whether graphic artists, chalk art, I mean, performance arts, all forms of that art form will be on display during Live Art. We want people to live it, experience it.
This year's Independence celebrations will also see a display at Expo Dubai. The showcase, dubbed My Island Home, is slated for February 20th to the 22nd.
We start off with a conference on St. Lucia tourism. We've invited as many tour operators, as many tourism interested agencies in that part of the world, MENA, Middle East, North Africa, to come to Dubai to for us to interact with them and to present St. Lucia to them. Of course, we're the world's #1 destination for honeymoons, so we do have a very powerful brand that we can sell to them. And that is followed up with a session on investment in St. Lucia. We've brought over a few investors, developers for a number of projects that will start in St. Lucia, for them to come and tell the world why did they choose St. Lucia and what it is like to invest in St. Lucia. And again, we believe we have a powerful story to tell in terms of what St. Lucia has to offer in terms of investment. Then we switch to the CIP. The MENA area is one of the most popular areas for economic citizenship, and we will be speaking to them about our citizenship by investment program, the changes we're likely to make, how it's going to grow. We want the CIP to be bigger and better, and therefore we'll be announcing that. And in the afternoon, we have Expo St. Lucia takes over in terms of the exports of St. Lucia. We'll have a chef who will be doing some of the specials.
Additionally, the 2022 Independence events will also feature a program entitled Nourishing Helen on Thursday, February 24th by Helen's Daughter. The entity seeks to promote the empowerment of rural women in agriculture. Executive Director and Youth Ambassador Kiflin Caro is on the Independence Committee.
I think that people have looked at agriculture in a very traditional sense for the longest time, which is why I think it's pivotal our relationship now with Hotel Chocolat. Because St. Lucia has pioneered agriculture for many years, but it's now a time for us to innovate. And I think to also reclaim our position as pioneers in the agricultural sector, but also to show that we can be models for the agritourism sector, which is why I think with the apprenticeship farm and also opening up opportunities for women that can showcase their farms and create kind of like agritourism models as case studies for our region.
The 43rd Independence logo was designed by Raul Joseph and the 2022 jingle produced by Irvin Lochter. Other activities planned for St. Lucia's 43 years of independence include the renaming of the Entrepot Human Resource Development Center on February 16th, National Colors Day on February 18th, Plea Bell Coming from February 18th to the 20th, the Military Parade and the Virtual Cultural Extravaganza on February 22nd. The public can view the full slate of the calendar of events on the 758 Independence social media platforms. Gina Filippi, HTS News Force.
We kick off today's sports with football. Football's governing body, FIFA, has dismissed a protest filed by the Jamaica Football Federation, JFF, over their 1-1 draw with the United States in a World Cup qualifier on November 16. Jamaica has said Costa Rican referee Juan Gabriel Calderon improperly failed to call a handball in the first half when Reggae Boys claimed Chris Richards should have been penalized for a ball that struck him in the penalty area. Jamaica also said Damian Lowe should have been credited with a goal in the 84th minute when he leapt over Walker Zimmerman at the top of the 6-yard box and headed Leon Bailey's corner kick to the left of U.S. goalkeeper Zach Steffen. Calderon cited Lowe for infringement and disallowed the goal. In a 34.8-page decision, FIFA's disciplinary committee said Jamaica failed to notify the match commissioner of the protest and failed to make a payment of 1,000 Swiss francs to accompany the protest. In cricket, India outclassed West Indies at Narendra Modi Stadium on Sunday to win the match by 6 wickets and to take a 1-0 lead in the ongoing one-day international series. The Caribbean team were sent in to bat and only reached 177 off 43.5 overs. India easily erased the target, reaching 178 for 4 with 22 overs to spare. Skipper Kiran Pollard, acknowledging that it was a, quote, heavy defeat, end quote, in post-match comments, said the batsman had generally again come up short. The second and third matches will be held at the same venue on Wednesday and Friday following their ODI series. The Windies will play 3 T20 internationals at Eden Gardens, Kolkata on February 16, 18 and 20. And in other sporting news, the Guyana Squash Association has gotten the nod of approval from the Caribbean Area Junior Squash Association to host this year's championship in July. Akeem Green has more in this report.
Guyana's hosting comes as a result of St. Vincent the Grenadines, the original host, opting out. News from Sport had reported in January that the GSA was open to taking up the mantle.
Guyana is a bit fortunate in that our vaccination percentages are quite high, and the COVID task force is doing a good job of monitoring these things. As you see, we've had other international events held in Guyana recently. So we offered, and when St. Vincent said they could no longer justify doing it, maybe sponsorship or whatever, we were willing to step up again and say, well, okay, we'll host this year in July. So what is great about this is that for 2 years now, the youths have not been able to play any junior championship squash in the Caribbean, and so we feel it is imperative for us to try to make the event a success for them.
It will be the final year for the Caribbean champions Shamari Wiltshire and Abisadita Duggan, and hosting will add great emotions to their swan song as junior players. The championship should be held no later than mid-July, as expected to be well represented with 150 competitors from an excess of 7 countries.
From a logistical point of view, it's not more difficult than other events. From COVID criteria, it may be a little bit challenging, but all the athletes will be fully vaccinated who attend. Obviously, their families and their supporters will also be vaccinated. So I think that from that we could have a bubble at this location and the National Rocket Center to be able to have the event, make the event a success. Obviously the protocols will have to be there, testing and whatever, but I think that we have the capacity, and I know we always have the support of the private sector in hosting these types of events. So I know that as well the ministry was always very supportive, and so and the GOA. So I'm quite sure that we'll be able to afford to justify and put it off and make it a success.
Guyana had hosted Junior Cast in 2017, where they relinquished the 12-year-old stranglehold on the title, and since then has come up second to Barbados. In 2019, GSA hosted the Senior Caribbean Championships, but since then, there has been no other Caribbean event owing to the COVID-19 pandemic. For the newsroom, Akin Green.
And that's our package. Join us tomorrow for more news and sports right here on PBCJ, the People's Station.